The development of human beings is over. Our brains have reached their limits. Political history is over. And architecture, that's dead too.
But what about football? Have we already seen everything?
We've had 2-3-5 systems, 3-5-2, 4-3-3. We had the libero, two holding midfielders, false nines, possession, counter-pressing, and vertical passing.
What's next?
I don't know.
Everything's been tried.
They were world champions with 7 strikers on the pitch and world champions with none. There was kick and rush and Tiki-Taka. There was the back 3, back 4, back 5. There were these shirts and these and these.
What's next? Will there always be something new? Or have we reached the end of football history? It's worth taking a look at the trends of the current football era. There are coaches who rely on extreme offensive pressing or counter-pressing.
Jürgen Klopp's Liverpool is the best example. In the Bundesliga now, it's Peter Bosch at Leverkusen, and also the Red Bull teams have it in their DNA.
Then there are coaches who swear by a lot of ball possession and circulation.
Maurizio Sarri developed Sarri ball at Napoli a few years ago. And then, of course, there's Pep Guardiola, the king of ball possession.
And third, there are teams with extremely defensive systems.
No other team in the world plays as deep and compact as Diego Simeone's Atletico. Mourinho's teams also don't take many risks.
But of course, top teams don't rely on just one tactic.
Thomas Tuchel brought the word game plan to the Bundesliga about 10 years ago when he was coaching Mainz. Every week he gave his team a new tactic and formation, depending on the opponent.
That's standard now. Every team masters every tactic.
Mourinho's defensive bulwarks, for example, can also play offensive pressing, like Real here against Barca. And teams that for decades played dogmatically with a back 4 have suddenly switched to a back 3.
So if everyone can do everything, is football now like chess, with thousands of variants, but all of them already tried? To get closer to the answer, we have to look back.
Every few decades, humanity has spawned groundbreaking revolutions, fundamentally changing life. Steam engines, electricity, automobiles, television, and the internet. In football, there have been tactical revolutions at similar intervals, fundamentally changing the game. The innovators dominated world football for years.
A look at the history of tactics might help to see where it ends.
1872. First international match ever. England fielded a 1-1-8, while the Scots were almost walled in with the 2-2-6. 14 strikers on the pitch, the result 0-0. A few years later, the so-called pyramid emerged, a 2-3-5, the usual system for several decades. In the early 30s, Arsenal coach Herbert Chapman was incredibly successful with his more defensive WM system. No one could beat Arsenal at that time. They probably thought they had found the perfect tactic. But back then, people also thought telegrams were the hottest communication shit the world would ever see.
The pyramid and the WM system were also the most common formations in the first World Cups. And then came the Hungarians.
The proud English were stunned when they lost 6-3 at home against the Hungarian national team in 1953.
Oh, a lovely goal!
What was the tactical twist?
Hungary's centre-forward Nándor Hidegkuti simply dropped back a little. This completely confused England's man marking. Zonal marking hadn't been invented yet. Hidegkuti scored 3 goals. The first false 9 in football history was born.
And this is now highly relevant again, at Jürgen Klopp's Liverpool, for example.
They made a decisive change before last season. The 4-3-3 remained in place, but Firmino's role changed dramatically. Again and again, the nominal centre-forward dropped back, like Hidegkuti back in the day, while Salah and Mané moved more into the centre. And it worked quite well.
The Hungarians' tactics didn't last long, however. In the 60s, defenses took their turn in the spotlight, in particular, catenaccio.
It was invented by the Swiss Karl Rappan in the 30s, but became a real phenomenon with coach Elenio Herrera and his Grande Inter Milan, the top European team of the 60s. Catenaccio is more than just strong defensive walls. The crucial element is the ball-oriented movement. If the opponents are attacking down a flank, one defender shifts over while another covers the space he leaves. A revolution that is still important today.
Whether Inter's success wasn't more down to the special coffee the players drank before every game is another matter. Was catenaccio the final word? No.
The 70s. Rinus de General Michels established total football with Ajax, the Dutch national team, and later Barcelona. The playmaker in each case, Johan Cruyff. The principle: each player can play any position on the pitch, but the wide formation always stays the same. The 4-3-3 was born, and Michels later became FIFA Coach of the Century.
Ajax still plays kind of total football today, as do Barcelona, with a few exceptions. And even what Bayern plays today is still based on Louis van Gaal's 4-3-3 from the year 2010, with the wingers extremely sticking to the touch lines when in possession.
Pressing high up the pitch also derives from total football. To date, no team has played this system as consistently as the Dutch in the 70s. Maybe in part because it turned out you don't become world champions like that.
And that's why it wasn't the end of football history, of course.
Argentina and Germany dominated the 80s with ugly defensive football. Germany won the 1990 World Cup final by having their defender Guido Buchwald do nothing but mark Maradona for 90 minutes.
Even though man marking had long since been abandoned by then. Same for the libero.
This man was to blame, the wizard of the next great tactical trend, Arrigo Sacchi. A large part of today's football is based on his tactical visions at the end of the 80s.
When we talk about remaining compact, we mean the principle Arrigo Sacchi's AC Milan used to win the European Cup in 1989 and 1990.
The distances between the lines were short. Sacchi was the first to play consistently with a flat back four and with an aggressive offside trap. At that time, a revolution. Today, standard with every football team.
Among the major revolutions that changed the game, Arrigo Sacchi's innovations can be described as the end of tactical development. In order to develop tactics for their teams today, coaches are not inventing anything new, but taking elements from the past and put them together. If we take again Klopp's Champions League winning side from last year, what are the building blocks? A 4-3-3 formation, pressing high up the pitch, Holland in the 70s. A high back line and expanding or contracting the lines when in possession or not, Arrigo Sacchi. And Firmino as a center forward moving between the lines, Hungary 54. It's all been done before.
So isn't there anything new in football? Are the cards already known? Not completely.
What Pep Guardiola has been doing with his fullbacks in recent years is kind of a mini revolution.
Sometimes they play so far inside that they form a 2-3-5 system when they are in possession, creating an enormous number of triangles in the center, which in turn facilitates his extreme Tiki-Taka. It's no coincidence that Guardiola invested 140 million euros in new fullbacks after not winning a title in his first Man City season. But that still wasn't enough for him. This summer he bought João Cancelo, the most expensive right back in the world.
So are the players perhaps the key to further fundamental development in football tactics? In any case, the trend in transfers is towards expensive defenders, because they are essential for implementing tactical refinements.
Jürgen Klopp's high-risk game has only worked perfectly since Virgil van Dijk came along to safeguard against the risk. Real Madrid hadn't won the Champions League in years until they found the right defensive pieces to the puzzle, Dani Carvajal and Casemiro, in 2013. And bang, they won the Champions League 4 times.
And this summer, the top clubs are pimping their backlines like never before.
Militao to Real for 50 million, De Ligt to Juve for 75 million, Hernandez to Bayern for 80 million, and Maguire to Man U for 87 million.
But aside from expensive defensive transfers, no tactical revolution has taken place for years.
Like in technology, the iPhone 5 looks like the iPhone 6, looks like 7, like 8, like 9. So if there isn't anything new, you need to celebrate the old.
In football too, the trend is retro. 3 phenomena that had long been forgotten can currently be observed in top-class football. The good old kick and rush. Why deal with complicated build-up play in your own half?
Red Bull Leipzig aren't afraid of long, risky balls, because sometimes they work quite well. Or returning to Liverpool's Champions League season once again. Similar tactics helped them destroy Barcelona. They let Van Dijk and Joel Matip repeatedly send long diagonal balls towards Barca's short left back Jordi Alba.
The second tactical refinement that can make the difference in such fast-paced, perfect games is la pausa, the pause.
A technique from the old times. Pelé hesitates and lays on Carlos Alberto in the 1970 World Cup final. Today, Lionel Messi is the main protagonist of La Pausa. And also David Silva uses a change of pace as a weapon.
And perhaps the most important means of gaining advantage against tactically accomplished teams, set pieces.
At the 2018 World Cup, almost half of the goals were scored from dead ball situations, more than at any other World Cup. England coach Southgate spent half of their preparations practicing corners and free kicks. The result? The English scored 9 of their 12 goals from set pieces. And last season's most important Champions League matches were all decided by corners. Ajax against Juve, Tottenham against Man City, and of course Liverpool against Barcelona.
So to sum it all up, yes, the history of tactics has reached the end. What else can there be? A defender who plays as a second goalkeeper? A team that only plays on the left side? A coach who only fields 9 players? And yet, no, the end is not the end.
Aren't the best politicians the ones who have learned the most from the past? Isn't the best ice cream good old-fashioned vanilla jazzed up with crunchy caramel bits? And isn't the best coach the one who best internalizes the great revolutions and then adds his own touches to them?